Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to IIRF Clause Weekly Podcast. As you know, IIRF Clause Weekly Podcast is a collaborative venture between two leading independent Indian think tanks, that is Indus International Research Foundation and the Center for Land Warfare Studies. In these short podcasts, usually we bring live insightful discussions on international relations, geopolitics, and important international issues. On our joint platform, we bring you eminent, high-profile professionals and personalities with hands-on experience on the topic of our discussion. So, the topic of our discussion today is India's punitive deterrence strategy against state-sponsored terrorism, reorientation requirement. A little long and technical, but very interesting. So in our audience present today, I am sure we have very highly learned people who are quite familiar with the subject and subject that we are going to deal with. Notwithstanding, I will try to give you a brief introduction of the topic. So ladies and gentlemen, India's approach to countering state-sponsored terrorism, which is mostly emanating from Pakistan, has evolved significantly over the past decades. Shifting from a doctrine of strategic restraint to one emphasizing punitive deterrence. The difference in this strategy, again, gentlemen, lies in the fact that it treats acts of terrorism not as an isolated incident, but an extension of state aggression. This, you will agree, warrant a well-thought, calibrated military response. To impose cost on sponsors of terror, make it very expensive. This doctrine of India, I think, has been made by the government in power. Okay, and so what I mean to say that this new strategy doctrine has been made a new normal by the current government. You may recall Prime Minister Mr. Modi making public statements about it since 2016. And this doctrine is drawn from the classical deterrence theories we are all aware of, and most of you must be aware, includes deterrence by punishment, that is inflicting pain post-attack, and then deterrence by denial, that is prevent attack through proactive measures. However, recently, particularly post Pahalgam and of Sindoor, the strategic thinking in India have started, strategic thinkers in India have started discussing some reorientation of India's response metric to cross-border terrorism. And for that, who can be a better person to tell us the intricate thought process that goes into all of this, other than, I would say, Air Marshal Anil Khosla, PVSM, AVSM, VM, former Vice Chief of the Air Staff. Air Marshal Khosla is ace fighter pilot himself with 4,000 hours of fighter flying in variety of aircraft, but majorly Jaguar and MiGs. He has been also the commander, he also has commanded one of the strategically most important operational command, and that is Eastern Air Command as the AOC in sea. Hence, who can be better person than him to understand such complex subject? Not only this, Air Marshal Khosla is a thinking general and a prolific writer. To share with my audience, his blog has completed 750 very insightful. There are a variety of things, but some of them are very insightful literature that strategic students must visit, see, and it will be beneficial for them. Uh, but and I will say, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, when a thinking general decides to speak, we need to pause and listen to him intently. Now, without much ado, it is my privilege to invite Air Marshal Khosla to enlighten us on the topic of today. Welcome, Air Marshal Khosla, sir, and the floor is yours, and we are waiting to listen to you.
Thank you, Mehta. Jai to all the viewers, and thank you to IIRF and Clause for giving me this opportunity to share my views and, more importantly, interact with the intellectuals on the very, very contemporary, a very, very important, very, very current topic. Captain Mehta has already laid down the foundation of it, and the strategy, how the strategy has evolved from strategic restraint to punitive deterrence. And I will just tag few issues related, seeing that the audience is very, very learned and already familiar with the topic. I will just tag the issues and look forward to more of interactive session after the in the end, rather than my talking away all the time. And thank you, Mehta, for the introductory words. Why I'm involved more in this topic is because not only Eastern Air Command, where I handled Doklam, but as Vice Chief thereafter, I handled the Balakot operations, which was, I consider it as a farewell gift to me from the Air Force. As Vice Chief, I had opportunity to coordinate it. Okay, so let's head on to the topic itself. So what is happening is the punitive deterrence strategy is evolving. If you see the Pakistan's attitude towards India, 4 wars, they couldn't achieve what they wanted to. Then they started 89. They started the terrorism as a means, policy of bleeding India by 1,000 cuts. And the irony of situation is the first terror attack was against Air Force personnel who were standing innocently in Srinagar. Sure. And that was in 89. And 30 years later, the IF has become the tool of the punitive strategy. So that is the irony of situation. The circle completes. So if you see 1999 Kargil, they tried, sending jihadi, the Pakistani regulars in the posing as jihadis. They failed. Then 2001 Parliament attack took place. We almost went to a full-fledged war. Then Mumbai attack took place in 2008, where we provided the world with a live, what better, we caught the terrorist and shown the world that it is how the Pakistan was sponsoring the terrorism. But they didn't mend their ways. Thereafter, that is the reason, the strategy had to be changed. So if you see Uri, then Balakot, and now Op Sindoor after Pahalgam. So that is the, if you say Uri was, rap on the knuckle, and Balakot was, slap on the face, then Op Sindoor was, punch on the nose or punch on the face. So that is how it is evolving and also escalating, which I'll come to subsequently. The second thing is, the air is being used as a punitive deterrence tool. Rightly so, all the services were involved in this case, and all the services did participate in the offensive operations. And if you see Balakot, mainly air was used against one terrorist camp, that is Jaish-e-Mohammed on Jabba Top. And that is when the myth was broken about air power utilization being escalatory. So it proved that, air power can be used for this purpose and escalation could be controlled. So I mentioned about the escalation, in Op Sindoor, 9 target terrorist camps were attacked. And so the what next? Will this prevent Pakistan to, will it force Pakistan to mend its ways or not? That is a question. So now, having seen this, now if you see in Op Sindoor, we hit 9 terrorist camps, all types of terrorist camps, and mainly deep inside, not only restricting ourselves to across LOC, going into deep, some of the terrorist camp close to the Pakistan military bases and military powers, going into Jaish-e-Mohammed and LET's headquarters, and also, of course, camps which are closer to the border, and all types of camps, the headquarters, as well as the training camps, as well as launch camps, as well as the logistic camps, and even where the suicide bombers are trained in Pakistan, those terrorist camps, all type of terrorist camps were attacked. The message was very, very clear that terrorists, as well as the perpetrators or the supporters of the terrorism, will be attacked, and no restraint will be used. The punitive deterrence will be used. So the question remains, what next? As I said earlier. So if you see, after the Op Sindoor, the Prime Minister's speech, very, very clear-cut red lines have been drawn. Any terror act will be act of war. So what it means is that tripwire strategy, indicating that, any response, any terror, the response will be much larger. We will not restrict to the military response short of war, but we will use all sort of, we'll use the force appropriate to convey the message or convey the punitive action. The second is that we will not get blackmailed by the nuclear blackmail, which Pakistan is used, having one hand nuclear saber rattling, doing the saber rattling, on the other hand, punching behind the back. So that is not. The third was, the blood and water will not flow together. It's got a bigger meaning, and also associated with that trade and other aspects will not go on. What it means basically is that all sort of punitive actions in all the domains, in all the paradigm of time, diplomatic, economic, everything will be used as a punitive action, and not only kinetic. So kinetic, non-kinetic, in all sort of domains, whatever necessary is required, we will do. So it's a very, very clear-cut lines which have been drawn. So will it prevent Pakistan from resorting to terrorism and resorting to supporting the terrorism? Now let's see. Why did Pahalgam happen? My theory is, desperate men do desperate things during desperate situation. Asim Munir is a desperate man. And if you see previous attacks also, all instigated by the Pakistan army chiefs, the previous ones also. So Asim Munir, his tenure getting over, he is called as jihadi general. Munir doctrine is very, very clear, anti-India, and he's madrasa trained, and he is narrowed down the gap between the military and the mullahs or the terrorist organizations. So if you see, the pictures which appeared, and the Pakistan military attending the funerals of the mullah, the terrorists, in full uniform. So that his tenure was getting over. So he wanted a permanent power seat. That is one. The second is the situation in Pakistan was desperate. Economically they are in trouble, FATF grey list, as well as inflation very rising high. Internally there's a problem, except for Punjab's, all the Sindh, Baloch and Pakhtuns are unhappy about it. Externally, having problems with Afghanistan and Taliban. Internally, the value of the Pakistan army was eroding. Never heard of attacks on Pakistan army corps commanders, was never heard of before. And it was losing face. And internationally also, they were losing support. So that was a very, very desperate situation, and a desperate man took a very, very desperate act. So has anything changed? If you see post Sindoor, he is elevated himself to the Field Marshal rank. He has managed to unify at least the common man's projecting, anti-India sentiments, and he has managed to get the army, this thing again in Pakistan army, raised its status in terms of now common man of Pakistan. And if you see the military spending also, it is spending much more than what it's spending on the healthcare, much needed healthcare and education and other social aspects. But military spending has gone up even on the borrowed money. And major thing is, USA. I don't know for what reason after post Sindoor they have become anti-India to some extent, and cozying up with Pakistan, calling him for lunch and dinner and whatnot, and repeatedly inviting the Prime Minister of Pakistan and Asim Munir repeatedly, and making anti-India tariffs and those gestures. They have signed a defense pact with Saudi Arabia, Middle East. China always had a covert and overt support. So these things will actually encourage him to do something, and may not be able to, this punitive deterrence strategy, which may not be able to deter them. And this is my personal reading. And in any way, all my views are personal and nothing to do with the Indian Air Force or any other agency. So, in my opinion, this desperate man may do something again in near future if the situation deteriorates further in the internal situation in Pakistan. And the Munir doctrine is very, very anti-India, and Pak military and the terrorist organization and the mullahs, the gap, I mean, they're hand in glove totally as per the Munir doctrine, which he is promoted. Okay, so we have to be ready. Okay, so what do we do? I'll not cover the lessons learned or the risk and challenges posed during the Op Sindoor, because they are well known, and enough has been talked about in all the discussions as well as writings. So I will go into what we need to do. Maybe I will just be tagging issues. I'll not go into details, and we will discuss them later, maybe during the interactive session. So we need to be ready in all fronts, not only militarily, not only in the kinetic domain, kinetic as well as non-kinetic domain, as well as new domains of warfare, as well as diplomatic, economically, every way. So let's start one by one, although I will concentrate more on military and IAF, but let's start with, say, diplomatic. So our bilateral relations, if you see with Pakistan, the Shimla agreement has been suspended by Pakistan. So we need to leverage that in our favor. I mean, the repercussions are very straightforward. The Shimla agreement was a very, very old agreement, and after 1972, and basically, in a nutshell, it made the LOC as a sort of a quasi border, but that with the nullification of Shimla agreement, the LOC sanctity goes. So we can interpret what the repercussions can be and how can it be leveraged. Second thing is, the Shimla agreement said that nobody will change the status quo on their own, and it will be bilaterally resolved, issues will be resolved. And so that agreement, they have said, is no longer valid. So diplomatically as well as militarily, how can we exploit that? We need to think about it and work on it. Neighbors, we cannot afford to give lose. And recent developments which are taking place, Nepal being used for the Nepal's route being used for infiltration, also as news items have come, few of them, for last 1 or 2 years. Bangladesh anti-India sentiment rising, plus the utterances by Pakistan that the next action will be towards east also, and all fronts will be open. So these are not very good for us, and we need to keep our neighbors along with us, of course, with the other neighbors also. But Nepal and Bangladesh are very important, and recently a lot of news has been coming regarding that. Major parts, of course, US, Russia, and China, we need to engage in a healthy way. And recent, anti-India sentiments shown by the USA and tariff warfare and the others, I think so far we have been doing well. And the picture which came out of Russia, China, and India, heads of the state together, I think made a difference. These days, the world is going into, engagement. There are no permanent enemies or fronts. It's all interest-based engagement of various countries and nations and parts. So we need to be very, very diplomatically active and proactive, I would say, not active. And now let's talk about a little bit about economy. So as we said, trade and tariffs is a main thing, and of course trade does hurt Pakistan to a large extent. No nullification of most favored nation, or stopping of the trade, stopping of trains and travels and visits and visa and all sort of things, and imposing tariffs of course will hurt. Also we need to bring out to the world in unclear terms that whatever money is being given by all the world organizations as a charity to Pakistan is being used for terrorism, rather than bringing up the social infrastructure in the country, which is much more required, and the money is being siphoned off to the military and all to the terrorist organizations. So that should be highlighted in all the forums. Third aspect economically is sanctions. Sanctions never deter violence, but sanctions are a part of modern warfare. If you see Russia-Ukraine war, sanctions on Russia, so many of them, and now US imposing sanctions on India. In the past also they've imposed sanctions. So that need to be catered in the our calculus. So the issuing of sanctions on us as well as the same. Okay, a word about nuclear. I'm not a nuclear expert, but this is my personal opinion once again. Pakistan has been doing nuclear saber rattling, which we have proved that there is a scope available below the nuclear umbrella where the punitive action can be undertaken and military response can be done. In my mind, we also a nuclear power, but we have been a very, very responsive power, and we have not been doing saber rattling as Pakistan has been doing, and world takes us seriously, gives us legitimacy. But to my mind, this is my personal opinion once again, if push comes to shove and something, we should also, Russia has done it, not only done saber rattling, but it has put its nuclear forces on alert and done some exercises and all, indicating that, yeah, we are a nuclear power and we can use it in case our existential threat exists. To my mind, what we should be doing is, not saber rattling, but there are means of, unsheath the saber, polish it, and maybe put it back. That's a hint I'm giving, and we can, in a responsible way, indicate to the world, yes, we are also a nuclear power, and to Pakistan also. On the contrary side, we need to strengthen our defenses. BMD project, which is there not only for Delhi, but in the entire country. Then we need to improve our second strike capability. We need to cater for hypersonic long-range vectors, which in future could be used for this thing. We need to, our integrated air defense system, we need to improve upon. Okay, now coming to, another bilateral issue, which is Indus Water Treaty, which we had said that no blood and water will not flow together. It's also a very old treaty, older than the Shimla Agreement. But to harness or to utilize that effectively, we need to develop a lot of infrastructure so that we can, use it in a way we want to use it. Okay, one very important point is, the internal issue, that is internal resilience we need to increase. In this, I have about two major points to indicate, or major issues to talk about. One is, we need to remove the triggers or reduce the triggers. Removing it will be very, very difficult. So we need to tighten up our border security. We need to tighten up our intelligence network. We need to, control our infiltration. We need to strengthen our infiltration grid. We need to strengthen our, not only military but paramilitary also to deal with these situations. We need to reduce our fault lines, tackling the issue at the source rather than, trying to control it thereafter. So all these issues we need to take into action. And the second part, which I think we need to do, is a societal preparation. So what is happening in this warfare is not like earlier days where only the military was fighting face to face and only casualties were military casualties, or only the border areas. The modern warfare with the long range vectors, civilians can also be targeted any part of the country. And not only kinetic as well as non-kinetic, they get affected. Non-kinetic with the cyber warfare into all your networks and all the issues which you, all your facilities which you use travel, air travel, train travel, banking, your healthcare. I mean, every aspect of this thing is now networked and cyber domain wise vulnerable, which can affect the common man's day-to-day living, as well as kinetically it can be this thing. So we need to prepare the mindset, that these things can escalate and can cause inconvenience or fatalities to the civilians as well. And this Op Sindoor also, civil defense was activated a little bit. I think we need to do more in that. Information warfare, everyone has been talking about, or the cyber warfare is very, very important narrative, and the legitimacy. A lot of after Balakot also and after Sindoor also, a lot of critics have criticized the Indian response. I think Kargil model was very good, with the high-level briefings, and three-tier setup is required, where individual service have multi-directorate setup. The three services under headquarter IDS have a tri-service setup, and national level, all the ministries and all the agencies have a setup. And the like Kargil top personnel were briefing, as well as reps from MEA and MOD were briefing in the morning and evening. That gives legitimacy. The other important part of info warfare is, the fake news which travels through the social media and the digital world, which goes very, very fast, and people are gullible to, swallow it or listen to it. So fake news mitigation, and that we need to be proactive in, and it was done to large extent, but we need to formalize the whole thing. Okay, coming to the military part and the kinetic response, I think we need to have a credible military capability. The time has come where you need to spend money on military to build up this thing. It is, for quite a few years, we thought that the state of neighbors is benign and is not so this thing. We cannot go to, we will not be going to war. I think that days are over, and we need to spend money on to have credible deterrence in all three services. As far as Air Force is concerned also, I'll come to that later. Jointly, we need to, develop an intricate sort of a deterrence web with all three services. We need to look into the escalation control and the matrix. And very, very important part is the decision-making agility at high level, which was very good at this time, not only at the tri-service level, but also at the national level, at NSA level, and then the CCS level. And because that decision-making ability is very, very important in orchestrating or the escalation control, or the going up the escalation or down the escalation ladder, which is very, very important aspect. Okay, as far as Indian Air Force is concerned, I'll not, being an Air Force officer, I have to speak about Indian Air Force also. And
yes, sir.
Yeah, so IF is the option generator. And, yeah, I have still 8 minutes and 15 seconds. My clock is still going on.
Sir, please, please go ahead, sir. We have time. Not to worry, sir.
Yeah, unless you want me to cut short, I can cut short. But as per time given by you, I still have 8 minutes.
Not at all, sir. Please speak your mind, and we are so fortunate to listen to it, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So as far as the Air Force is concerned, obviously it has been the option generator. And, the options generated, as I said, rap on the knuckle to punch on the nose, depends on how many what targets, their location, their numbers, their extent, the extent of damage, where they're located across the LOC or the IB, deep inside. All those things, indicate there are various shades of punitive action which the Air Force can generate. So to do a little bit of reorientation in the sense, first of all, the fighter aircraft strength and the strength of combat enablers like refuelers and the AVAX and J-Star and the other aircraft were very, very important. I mean, they need to spend money on it and procure them at the earliest. Atmanirbharta is the ideal situation, but if not, we need to procure from my side to maintain the minimum deterrence value. Okay, second thing is the precision and standoff is very, very important. If you see between Balakot and Op Sindoor, we have come a long way. In Balakot, I remember we had only 2 or 3 types of weapons with limited ranges. But in Op Sindoor, we had much more variety of weapons with standoff capability and much better precision and much longer ranges. So we need to induct more and more of this capability of surgical, I call it surgical offensive capability. Okay, third is situational awareness is very, very important in terms of two. One is the int sharing and the int status apparatus, and second is the our surveillance capability, and in that the space-based surveillance is very, very important. We need to spend money and spend. Then in targeting, it's not only the Western model. If you see, I think we need to develop dynamic targeting where the target appears for a short duration and not static. And second is target of opportunity. That means it appears for a short while, and we should be able to this thing. The induction announcement of a J-star aircraft, will improve that also. Then next is the network centricity, which Indian Air Force is way ahead. With this last thing left was software-defined radios. So the 3 layers of network security is complete. And in Ops Sindoor, as brought out in the civil media, that all the 3 services also networked very well. I think the time has come where we need to extend the networks to all that at a national level with other agencies and other directorates and ministries as well. Okay, we need to go into long-range vectors, that is no contact warfare and drones, and not only these, but indigenous capability and also indigenous capability to negate these as far as enemy is concerned. That means our air defense capabilities, which I talked about, the integrated air defense, which can look after from sub-conventional threats up to going up to long-range vectors and hypersonic weapons and BMD class of this thing. So last, very important is, while you're being offensive capability, protection and security of our assets, which not only Indian Air Force, almost all the services as well as all the agencies which are responsible for protection of those VAs and BPs. So it's not only physical protection from kinetic attacks, also from the cyber attacks and information warfare attacks, and those, we need to develop that. So I have just listed out these issues, and I'm not gone into detail explanation of these. So I think reorientation is required, and in the end I would say that situation, to my mind, my reading is that the domestic situation in Pakistan, as well as the army stance and the army, the Asim Munir being at the helm of affairs and being encouraged by their engagement with the international other powers and countries, I don't think they will get deterred, and sometime or the other soon they are going to resort to continue this sort of this thing. And so we should be totally ready, and we should work on all these issues which I pointed out, and be ready for this thing. Thank you for the patient hearing, and I look forward to the interactive session and inputs from the audience, as well as discussion on the subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was an excellent, good talk. Now, before I go on to this, there are some questions in the chat box. We will come to that. But before that, sir, a little penny for my thought. Do you think this Pakistan always acts on its own? Like you said that General Munir had personal reasons to instigate. So it is my hunch and feeling, and there's some credible suggestions as well, that he might not be acting on his own. What has changed? And I quote 2 articles, one by Admiral Shekhar Sinha, and one is General Sudhakarji. Sudhakarji has talked about network-centric warfare, which you have already touched upon. But what Admiral Sinha has written in his article and is published on our website, that the character of the war between India and Pakistan has entirely changed. It is nothing what it was in the past. I am not talking about contactless war and technology and this, but the paradigm, it seems, of engagement has changed. And today, if Pakistan attacks, there may be 100 of reasons why it should do so, but if ever there is a kinetic engagement in future. So we should not be thinking about two front war. Now we have got only one front war, and this is the view of Admiral Sinha. And he said that the Op Sindoor was very different from all previous engagement, because the control and the direction of the Pakistani Air Force and activity was directly from Chengdu. And Chengdu was has so many satellites, so situational awareness of our entire geography was being shown to them, and through fiber optic cable, it is connected to the Pakistan upstream. So Pakistan upstream gets minute to minute very high quality situational awareness of the theater of war. And this it is full of Chinese equipment, so the right type of response through using the Chinese equipment is also suggested, programmed. And now this how it changed, I feel, is that earlier we had more confidence that in a conventional war, India has the superiority. Pakistan still may not be having superiority over us, but Pakistan has got now access to something which should worry us, since we are talking about India's response. So I would like you to highlight how dangerous is this connection between China and Pakistan in future war. China may not be directly fighting, but it can always try to put a screw on India through Pakistan by fighting a war by proxy. And second question is that, do you think that China deliberately created the situation in which, like Hamas created the situation for Israel, and the similarity, I will say that the act of terror was of a different nature. It was so gruesome and it was so outrageous that no power, weak or could have not have reacted massively. So Israel did that, and I feel the kind of terror that was perpetrated in on our side forced India to take an offensive. And is this a calculated instigation to test our weapon system, which has qualitatively absolutely new, never tested? I mean, so these are the two questions. First is that should we worry about the situational awareness and China's Chengdu and Pakistan Opsum, and they have we also have satellite, but it is much less. We cannot cover all, it appears. And second is that I think these are the two questions I will like you to elucidate, sir.
Yeah, so thank you. I think you covered most of the things yourself. The first question has got two parts. So I didn't say that Asim Munir has done it on its own or instigated by somebody. I said one of the factors was Asim Munir's personal this thing was that his tenure is getting over and he's got power intoxication. He's a very ambitious chap. He's madrasa trained, and his philosophy or this thinking and is all jihadi sort of thinking. And with as I said, the gap between the military and the terrorism or the terrorist organizations is narrowed down totally, or they're hand in glove. So since his tenure is getting over, that he wanted permanent this thing, and by promoting himself as Field Marshal, he's achieved that. He will stay in power for as long as he wants. Second aspect was that army under him was losing credibility, and common man was rising against the Pakistan army, which was not very healthy. So now he is able to unite the Pakistan awam, as they call it, feelings, for the army. Yes, army is the savior, and that sort of feeling. So that was one of the factors, as I said, for this. Okay, coming to the second part of China, yeah, of course, China is a big factor in the whole thing. And if you see the Chinese, Pakistan military is not all Chinese now. Earlier, it had majority of it from Western countries and US equipment. Now it has got all Chinese in the Air Force, Navy, Army, all the three services. And percentages keep varying. I know people say from 60% to 80% infrastructure. I mean, the equipment is all Chinese equipment, weapon platforms, everything. And China is known to covertly and overtly give support. And third aspect is that China has got interest in the Pakistan CPEC, which is facing a lot of problem in Balochistan and the other places where the regional people are thinking that the benefits are going to Pakistan Punjab side rather than more towards it should go to them because the CPEC is going through them. So China is facing those problems, and so China's interests are there. So in this case also, obviously China, and fourth aspect is this first time, Chinese equipment and weapons and platforms were being pitched against Western and other nations' equipment and platform and weapons. So they were closely watching it, and obviously they wanted to succeed because they want to capture the world market as far as the defense market is concerned. They want to break the monopoly of USA and the Western world. I mean, they are striving to be world number one, and one of the features which is required is, a dominance in the defense industry. And their defense industry is doing well by whatever means that we'll not talk about. But in this case, the first time being pitched, they were very, very interested. They were watching it very, very closely, and they would do anything to overtly or covertly support Pakistan to make their equipment and weapon and platform succeed. So as you brought out, whatever intelligence, whatever satellite, this thing, whatever network centricity, whatever aspects they could help, they would have helped. As far as future is concerned, of course, they will continue because of all these factors which I listed out, 4 or 5. They will continue supporting Pakistan, and Pakistan has become a sort of a vassal state for China. China, the puppeteers, and Pakistan is a puppet. So it is a problem for us. It is a problem for us. Even if both don't attack us simultaneously, by means of Chinese presence in Pakistan also will create a problem. One of the examples is, in the North POK, at the airfields, if the Chinese presence is there, it becomes difficult. It becomes complex for us to, address those targets and this thing. It becomes complicated. So we need to, cater for these contingencies in future wars or skirmishes or whatever you want to, or activities, or the punitive action, whatever you want to call it. We need to cater for Chinese involvement in the whole process.
Yeah, thank you, sir. You have merely answered my question. Even the second part, which was that can it be considered as a deliberate instigation for India to react and use its resources so that the Pak and China might know our capability of our new acquired equipment
So
for future.
my personal take is I don't think China would do that to, I think it is a bit far-fetched, and we are trying to read in between the words and trying to read where nothing is existing. I don't think so.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and of course, China, Pakistan is a puppet of China. Some situation has also changed. I feel now the US is back to what I feel, sir, is Pakistan is a mercenary army available for hiring whosoever give the right price for it. So China has been giving, so it was with China, but now US is ready to give the price, and therefore it can own it. And why it should own it? Because China has always been used by the Western powers to use it as a screwdriver or to pressure point the India to submission or compliance. And this was a situation where India has charted a very, very strategic independence foreign policy, and there are a series of issues on which India did not cooperate with the with the not, we cannot call it a request. It was quite a because Trump's style of functioning is not requesting people but bullying people to compliance. So uh, this is the situation, also a factor that not only China is using Pakistan, but even US too has a vested interest to destabilize India's progress, and for that it can also use the Pakistani proxy. And as Major General Sudhakar ji, we had a podcast on with him, has talked about the Devil's Triangle, which connects Nepal, Islamabad, and Dhaka. And they are in Dhaka, you know, sir, they are reviving that airport, and with the Chinese help, of course. But the Islamization factor has been triggered, can be or may be triggered by the Western sources, and to put pressure on India and create a ring of fire around it. So this is also one geopolitical, or say strategic aspects which might exist and can be factored. So will you like to respond, or should we go to the next question in the chat box?
I'll just quickly respond about 3 or 4
Yes,
aspects, and then we can go to the questions. You
Yes,
covered a lot of ground itself. So you called Pakistan Army mercenary available for hiring. I mean, my reading is not that. They're too involved in their own problems, and I mean, running the country and making money for themselves. They're not into warfare. They're basically into I mean, personal gains, and that is it. And secondly, they got embroiled in their own, web. It's like, they say, if you keep a snake as a pet, be prepared to be bitten sometime or the other. So that's what their policies are, such that they are now getting bitten. If you, support terrorism, that it will come and hit you sometime or the back. So that is what is exactly happening, and they're having problems so they got embroiled in whole thing. Of course, their economy as well as support is because of 2 reasons. One is, they have advantage of geographical position. That is what they always try to cash on. So US interest was earlier, Afghanistan, operations in Afghanistan, where they burnt their fingers and Pakistan was supporting them. After US withdrawal, that went away. So geographical advantage of Pakistan is this thing has got a gateway towards sea, which China is interested in. They have got gateways to Middle East countries. It's got say in the Islamic world. So these are the factors by which China and US try to utilize. That is why the importance. And if you see Pakistan economy, also I call it credit card economy. So he has various credit cards: one US credit card, one Middle East credit card, one Islamic credit card, one Chinese credit card. So he borrows from one, and one from, of course, world bodies and IMF. So he borrows from one and pays the other. So that sort of credit
Yes,
card.
sir.
As far as
Very
Nepal,
nicely put, sir.
yeah, as I said, Nepal, Dhaka, Pakistan. I mean, I've covered that we cannot afford to lose our neighbors. I mean, it's a very, very tricky situation. Even if militarily they're not strong enough, they can be irritants. And in the past also, things have happened even during Galwan, and Nepal was acting, a bit bringing out issues which are border issues which are never spoken about earlier. And now Bangladesh, of course, is totally anti-India sentiments and Islamization, which you talked about. One larger thing which you talked about, Western interest in containing India. It's not only containing India. That picture which came out, Russia, China, and India premiers together. The coming century is the century of Asia. The Asian continent was ravished by the Western world. If you see, Indian and Chinese civilization were very, very old, and they were top of the world. I mean, they were the top economies, and they were doing very well. They were very rich, and colonization took place, and both the countries were ravished. In spite of that, within 8 decades or so, we have come up again to a very, very formidable place in the world. Okay, so coming century is century of the Asia, provided we do not fight with each other and lose our focus. And Western world interest will be to create wars in the Asian subcontinent, create wars so that we get embroiled and weaken out. That is a very, very important factor which we need to keep in mind in the broader context of things. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So, can we now move on to the? There are a lot of questions in the chat box. So, so we will tackle two questions together, and we will because of paucity of time, we will not go into detail, but we will try to satisfy the queries and doubts raised in the chat box. So, Brigadier C. Sandeep Kumar, he is the president of IIIRF, sir, he asked, the punitive deterrence is a major change in India's strategic thinking. Op Sundur proved it. With nuclear capability of Pak, how do we ensure to counter it? So, and second question also I'll read out based on OS. This is from Akash Tandani. I think he might be from Claus, sir, because I am not familiar with him, but I am sure if he's a defense officer, his rank is not mentioned here, sir. So, based on OSINT and a bit of investigative search, does bring to light that mainstream OS like Windows is transforming into pan-global spyware, and Google may be a close second. Your views, I think. So you can respond to these questions from Brigadier Sandeep and Thandani, sir. In short.
Okay. Yeah, so the first is punitive deterrence, and I covered the two aspects. That is the escalation which we have gone into, from Uri, where we went, the ground action took place, and we went across, but we didn't tom-tom our actions, and we did not publicize. In Balakot, we hit one target, Jaish-e-Mohammed camp, deep inside, not across LOC, but IB sector, and we did a lot of chest thumping because of the election year. And now we have gone into Op Sindoor, where we went into a major escalation of 9 targets. So what next? Next is war. I mean, what else can you do? I mean, it'll be a full-fledged war. Beside terrorist camp, you'll have to go in for something else. And it has been declared in the red lines were indicated. Question is, how do you, escalation matrix, how do you control it and also keep it below the nuclear threshold? So, as I said, brought out in both the operations in Balakot and this, the space did exist where the kinetic military action could be undertaken, whether you call it MRSOW or a limited war or a limited skirmish or whatever you want to call it, keeping it below the nuclear threshold. And as a third part, I also covered in a oblique way, I hinted at it, that we also have nuclear power. We need to develop our second strike capability. We need to increase our nuclear deterrence. And also we need to develop our protective infrastructure. And as a policy, we can also, indicate to the world at time comes in a subtle way that, yes, we also are a nuclear power. So I think that should combine these factors, what I covered. I think the escalation part can be managed and it will be dynamic. I mean, no war, as I said yourself, no war is repeated. All the situations are different. So we'll have to play by the ear, where the dynamic decision making at a higher level becomes very, very important. So that process is very, very important. The infrastructure, the whole gambit of decision making at higher level. Okay, coming to the second part, which is related to cyber warfare. Now with the AI and quantum coming in, I mean, you'll see more and more of these activities of non-kinetic warfare in the domain of cyberspace, information, electronic. These 4 domains are the evolving domains of warfare, and the effect will be much more on all the countries. Now also a lot of cyber attacks take place, but people don't come to know because either they're mitigated or they're controlled. But with the AI and quantum coming in, there will be much more. Uh, as you brought out, Osint, maybe about Windows and spyware and all. Not only in these software, that is why most of the countries are now developing their own networks. They are developing their own apps. They are developing, like China has gone in a big way in developing their own apps as well as operating systems. India is also working on the operating systems and their own apps and even the social media platforms. So all the countries are working on it. India is also working on it. It will be required. With the AI and quantum coming in, there will be much more to it than what we see. The other aspect I would like to highlight here, since the question has come, is when we buy military equipment from outside, now the systems are becoming so much networked. The scare of hidden, earlier it used to be called time bomb. I won't call it time bomb. I mean, hidden things could be very, very scary. Tomorrow it may stop working at the time at the behest of some control from the outside. You may be sharing all your information, how you're utilizing the platform or the weapon or the network or the equipment. That is also very, very important, as well. That is why self-reliant is very, very important in all our systems and equipment and weapons and networks. Yeah.
So now the next question, though it is shown on the screen, Mr. Thandani had more question similarly related to. I will just quickly read it out, sir. If only you may respond if it is required, because you have covered his point quite well. So his point is, keeping in perspective the earlier query, would it be a good idea to seek out open source Linux-based OS to ensure security while maintaining stability? I think, sir, you have covered that we have to be now self-reliant in these platforms. Digital and cyber space. So we will not. I will not tax you to, or maybe if you want to respond, sir, you can do so. Otherwise, we'll move.
No, I just generally covered it at a broad level. That good enough. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So now next comes from Rishi Atreya. Any comment on Pakistan developing ties with US while being aligned to China? I think it is a good question, sir, because they are very contradictory, but it is actually happening in front of our eyes. Not that it is speculation that both America and China have deep strategic connection with Pakistan. So, and both are antagonistic or adversarial powers. So how does it? In fact, it's speculative. Trump has tasked Munir to deliver the Bagram airbase, and if Munir does not succeed in that, then he may fall from grace. So, and China is very cut off for the close. So, what are your views about this balance between China and USA, that game that it plays, jugglery?
Yeah.
It is very interesting, sir.
Yeah. So it is a very interesting question and a situation also. So as I said, there are no permanent enemies and no permanent friends. And Pakistan location is one that it has got advantage, and he uses it to the full advantage. And as I said, he utilizes by wooing China, by wooing Pakistan, USA, by Islamic world, Middle East. So that way he has been able to do it well. So now Pakistan, US earlier, when the Afghanistan war was on, he was interested in Pakistan was supporting bases and other things. But after the American pullout, the American support had reduced. But after Sindoor, suddenly it changed, and Trump is being told by a lot of Americans itself that decades of goodwill and decades of strategic development which took place with India, he's undone it within no time. So why is he undone it so why is taken such a drastic step? To my mind, personally, it has something to do with some personal as well as some countries' interest in Pakistan. One is, some personal interest. Some strategists have written, the cryptocurrency issue, where Trump's family is involved in the cryptocurrency and Pakistan is supporting it as far as crypto issues are concerned. That could be a personal reason. Secondly, this is again once my personal reading. Something we have hit in the target area where of US presence may have been there, and which they can't acknowledge publicly, but they are upset about it being hit. A lot of speculation came in, no official this thing. This is my personal reading only. That is why, why should he suddenly drastically change? Just saying because of aspiration for Nobel Peace Prize and India countering him that the peace, that sounds too naive and too small a issue for this thing. So that is my personal reading why US has changed. Now US is, Pakistan is offering rare earths to this thing, USA, and along with Bagram Air Base, you mentioned about it. Now China, on the other hand, has got total control over this thing. Would they like Americans to come in? They are racing with the Americans as far as world number one is concerned. So they'll have to play it by the ear. Now Pakistan so far is managing both sides. Okay, it's a tightrope walk, and to put it very crudely, if you have two husbands, sooner or later you may run into some problem or the other. So we'll have to wait and watch how they play their card and how these two countries react. If these are, of course, major powers in the world, and major powers are known to be ditching people as and when required, when their country's interest is of paramount importance. So we'll have to wait and watch how long does this marriage of convenience last with the US, and how long the marriage of convenience lasts with the Chinese, and how does the marriage last with both of them simultaneously. That's a very crude way of putting it, but it's an interesting situation and needs to be washed out and seen how they navigate this situation.
All right, sir. Thank you. Now, the next question comes from Ashish Hegde. Asks, sir, can we expect one squadron of Tejas Mark 1A by June 2026? And if so, then will this give us an advantage? Sir, you can give a quick answer, sir.
Yeah, okay. This is a very, very small question in the sense one squadron of Tejas Mark 1A. We are short by almost 11, 12 squadrons at the moment, and world has moved on. The adversaries have moved on. That 42 squadron strength was much earlier. Now the technology and the warfare has also changed. There's a new requirement to redo the whole force structuring. But of course, even if you do the force structuring redo, a lot of people say a lot of technology has come in, long range vectors have come in, drones are taking over. Why do we need fighters? Fighters are still relevant, and the numbers are still relevant, and there's quality as well as quantity. The minimum deterrence value has to be maintained. At the moment, we are lacking in that. We are, both the adversaries, China is already flying 5th generation inducted already. They are already flown prototypes of 6th generation aircraft. Pakistan is likely to get 5th generation from China, and we are lagging a bit, because of a philosophy of supporting self-reliance. Leapfrog has not worked. The government has given a lot of impetus to, under 17 odd verticals, things are working. We've gone into 5th gear, but we need to go even further. As I said, we need to spend. We need outside help. We need to get technology from outside. We need to induce technology. We need a top-down approach. We need monetary support. We need to have good ease of doing business. We need to, while maintaining self-reliance, we need to maintain minimum deterrence value and procure from outside if required. So that is the overall this thing. Once a lot of promises are being made, and how long, whether they're fulfilled or not, time will tell. It's not only Tejas Mark 1. We need to go into Mark 2. We need to go into AMCA. And we need to go into 6th generation. If you throttle back, if you don't catch up with them, you'll lose the race. You need to invest in technology, which we are doing, but we need to go into more and more higher gear as far as all these aspects are concerned. And the major aspect of it is, even if you get one squad, you're taking engines and critical technology from outside. There's no self-reliance. So that's a big problem. So we need to work on all these things. It's not so easy as it sounds, but we need to navigate these issues, and we need to handle these challenges. Yeah.
Sir, I think the current government led by Mr. Modi has done more than all previous government as far as Atmanirbhar in defense technology is concerned, and a lot of things are happening on these aviation field, engines and other things. We will have to wait and see, as we have said. There is another question. I will move on again from Mr. Rishi Atreya. Again, it is a good question, but it was covered earlier, sir. Any comment on his query is any comment on Pakistan developing ties with USA while being aligned to uh, China?
Covered
So
it.
it was already covered. But I will like to supplement, sir, what you had said. And you have said that why US should drift away from India and go in the and again take Pakistan when all these decades the I mean there have been lot of strategic convergence between U.S. interest and Indian interest. So my penny for thought is that all these years, it is not only Trump's personal, I feel, but all these years, US was trying to solicit India as a pivot to contain China. And in doing so, we moved forced much ahead. And I think militarily we have forged more ahead than diplomatically. But what has been because of India's strategic independence, India has refused to join the US camp and NATO camp and behave in that manner. And America was always trying to do that. So at the end, and with the style of Trump's functioning, he must also got disillusioned that okay, India is, but they are not coming forth as much as America expect. They also have a style of functioning. They want to lead. They want to be the area commander, and all these NATO nations and the allies have to function under that command. So India has not been. India has refused to take part in South China Sea. India has refused to come under the command of the UN. So a point has reached due to and of course Russia factor is also there. The bear in the room, as Atreya has said, that is also there. So that has might have now shifted the strategic thinkers in America to go back to Pakistan instead of India, because India is a democracy and demanding or instructing what to do is not possible in a democracy, because democracy is responsible for people. Whereas in Pakistan, it is run by the generals. Generals are very amenable and they have all their properties in US. So and CIA has got all their maintains the black book or all the sins they have committed. So they have a lot of handle on the generals, and the generals are more than willing to work under its command. So it is easier to deal with Pakistan than democracy. That has been that's my supplement to this, and that's why they are with how we. But maybe when the Trump goes away, we may go back to the because strategic convergence and US objective to contain China or tackle China if the balloon goes up. India is a necessity of in the Indian Ocean region. I mean, US may not be as effective in this part of the world without India's. Yes, so strategic convergence is there. Pentagon, I am definitely want India more than the political establishment, and these might be the factors for them to drift, but it is not short term. And long term, I think it will be okay. So now we can move to the next Ricky Mahapatra. Sir, we are running out of time, so we will now quickly take some questions and then we will close. What is this? Ricky Mahapatra. Do you see yesterday's event in I think he's mentioning about either Egypt or maybe in Israel, where he praised us. Oh no, not it must be in Egypt. Praised Asim Munir, the mere flattery, or there is something more to it that meets the eyes. There are a lot of spelling issues in this question, sir.
Yeah, these are all geopolitical questions, and Trump keeps making statement every two statements in a day, and one is opposite to the other. I mean, then the whole world goes into TG, trying to read the commas and the full stops and in between the words. I think we lose the bigger picture in this deciphering the utterances, random utterances, I would say, he makes throughout the day. And these are all geopolitical gimmicks. I mean, everyone's got opinion and everyone is right. So I don't think it's got any major meaning to it. Today he said something, tomorrow he may something else. I think we make a big issue out of it. We should not resort to these day-to-day small utterances and incidents.
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure, sir. Ask us, can we expect a squadron? Then ask, did we create enough deterrence against Pakistan in Operation Sindhu with the due respect by the command of the Western Army commander who is. This is related, sir. There is one question by Amit related to Op Sindoor, and Op Sindoor has been churned so much recently. If you feel you can respond, sir. Did we create enough deterrence against Pakistan in Operation Sindoor with due respect by the comments of Western Army commander who is warning of another Pahalgaon? The Amit thinks, I don't think so.
Yeah, I've already touched upon this aspect in large detail. Our strategy of punitive deterrence and Op Sindoor, will it deter? Time will see. And what I covered is, we'll have to watch the situation in Pakistan. If it again deteriorates and turns into those 4 or 5 factors which I brought out, they again start playing up. There might be something else which may come up. It may not be in the exact form, but something or the other may come up. So we have to be ready with the deterrence value we need to increase even more further. That's what nutshell the whole talk, the whole 1 hour talk was all about. That we need to be ready for any eventuality and not wait for too long. It may happen, it may not happen, it may happen soon also. So we have to be ready, and not only in kinetic domain but all sort of domains. That's what we all covered. So Op Sindoor, of course, the deterrence was there. The message was very clear that our patience has run out. We are going to hit you. We are going to hit you everywhere. We are capable of hitting you everywhere. That was the phase 2 where we hit all the military targets, 13 airfields, every type of target, the runways, the hangars, the command control centers, the underground facilities. Every type of the air defense radars, air defense missile systems, every type of target was hit and considerable damage was done. That was a very, very clear message that we are capable of hitting you anywhere. You cannot hide. You don't have the strategic depth. So that message was very, very clear that you need to, get over this supporting the terrorism and the policy of anti-India and bleed with 1,000 cuts by resorting to terrorism. So that message was very, very clear. I think this thing, but in future, will it work or not? That is a question. So taking the benefit of doubt and catering for the worst case situation, we need to be ready, and we need to be ready in a multi-domain.
Thank you, sir. We have already overstepped our given time of 1 hour, but it is fine, sir. It was an important talk. So I will like to close this podcast with Brigadier Sandeep Kumar, President IIIRF, who has not asked a question, but he has summarize, given a statement, I read, USA is slowly overextending themselves, especially with China, developing into a strategic counter to USA economically and militarily. Pakistan is trying to get best out of it. I think this was his input, and we need. And with this, sirs, I will like to thank you for the very insightful, very illuminating talk that you have given, that how now there is a need to reorient our response to the state-sponsored terrorists across the border, and that we have already proven that the bogey of nuclear threat in all these years that Pakistan was making. And I think Prime Minister Modi has completely busted it, and now we are over it, and we are not deterred due to Pak's nuclear threat not to retaliate. And Air Marshal Khosla is very well summarized how what areas our reorientation is needed. And with this, I will end the thing with thanking Air Marshal Khosla and all our viewers, and thank you for putting your very good questions, and we were very delighted to respond to it, and we wish to see you again in our next podcast. Thank you very much. Thank you, Air Marshal Khosla, sir,
Thank you.
for taking time to spend
Thank
with
you.
us, sir. Thank you.
Jai Hind, Jai
Thank
Hind.
you, sir. Jai Hind, sir.